This report concerns an interview with Mr. Doug Mayo of the Colonial Williamsburg Foundation's Rockefeller Library, which took place on Friday, September 23, 2011, from 10:30 to 11:30 a.m. The interview subject matter concerns the administration of this specialized library and contrasts the interview subject's management style to those that appear in 3 books concerning organizational management and leadership. These 3 books are Raving Fans, First Break All the Rules, and Primal Leadership. Colonial Williamsburg, located in Williamsburg, Virginia, is the largest and best outdoor museum in the world. It is recognized as the gold standard in the profession of public history. One of the departments of this foundation is its library, which is the subject of this report. Each year, millions of visitors journey to Williamsburg. I went there for the first time when I was 5 years old, and I enjoyed it a great deal. I did my internship there at the Foundation Library in 1986, and since that time it has changed a great deal. Now the photographs that you're going to see in this presentation were ones that I took when I went there on my vacation in May of 2010. In the 1990s, the Colonial Williamsburg Foundation acquired a building that had been part of the local public school system, and the foundation had that building renovated and turned it into the Rockefeller Library, which was open to the public in 1997. Now, to give you some background information about this library, it receives about 12,000 patrons a year. It has about 70,000 circulating and reference volumes, about 200 manuscript collections, about 1,000 18th century newspapers, and about 10,000 reels of microfilm. Now, the actual director of this library is one of the vice presidents of the CW Foundation. His name was not divulged during the interview, but as I understand it, he never appears at the library, so he's pretty much out of the picture. My interview subject is Mr. Doug Mayo, who has a bachelor's degree in history from a military academy. He also has a Master of Arts degree in history from the University of New Hampshire and an MLS degree from the University of Kentucky. Concerning the hierarchical structure of this library, Mr. Mayo stated in his own words, and I quote, "This is kind of interesting because this library is not what it used to be. Because of downsizing, we have had to cut back in the last 10 years. We have gotten smaller. The management structure has also changed. I am now the head of Special Collections and Technical Services. There is also a Public Services Department, but I am not the head of that. My duties here are to see to the day-to-day running of the library. Everyone here has worked here for at least 15 years. Everyone knows their jobs and their role, and I have few needs in terms of training and the like." This administrator's tasks on a day-to-day basis mainly concern fiscal management. Mayo had this to say about his actual duties as library director. "There's really not a lot to do in terms of administration of this library, since my people are already well-versed in performing their duties. It is largely a matter of managing the budget and dealing with budget cutbacks. We have to come in on budget. There have been times when we have had to cut back on discretionary spending. We have lost several positions since 2000, and we really don't spend any money on travel anymore." At this point, I will concentrate on 5 questions from the interview that I thought were particularly noteworthy. And these are: what are the necessary skills, personality traits, or talents that you as a library administrator find necessary? What should a library administrator never do? It seems that most librarians are introverts. Do people with this personality trait have a chance at becoming library administrators? What is the best way to manage library personnel? And how can you motivate staff if you don't have any money beyond salaries? When asked what are the necessary skills, personality traits, or talents that you as a library administrator find necessary, he stated, "Well, first and foremost, you have to be able to engage with people. You have to be able to show that you care about your people and your patrons. In a small institution like this, you have to be able to do a lot of different things. Be versatile. You have to be able and willing to do things that you might think are beneath your level of professionalism. You have to be a team leader and also be a part of the team. Consequently, some of the people who work in public services find themselves very busy." When asked what not to do as a library administrator, he replied that in order to maintain positive morale, it is important not to show anyone that you are discouraged. Quote, "Even if you are discouraged, don't let your people know. Try to keep things in a positive light." End quote. Mayo seems to understand the impact that emotions and showing emotions have on the workplace. Concerning whether introverts or extroverts make the best library administrators, Mayo had this to say: "If you look at libraries, the people who rise to the top are those who have been there for a long time. Introversion or extroversion doesn't seem to be the issue, but those who rise to the top are those who can deal with people, including people from outside the organization." Mayo had this to say about library personnel management. Quote, "One of the things that comes to mind is trust. The staff comes here because this is the place where they want to be. Trust them to carry out their jobs. Don't micromanage them because micromanaging shows a lack of trust." Concerning opportunities for improvement, Mayo acknowledged that there are areas in his institution that need to be improved. However, a severely restricted budget situation makes this impossible. Lastly, Mayo had this to say about how to manage people with a lack of funds. Quote, "See if there's something you can do to make their work interesting. They sometimes work on projects that others have generated. Allow them to work on things that are important to them and that they find interesting." Now I'm going to compare our library administrator to the traits described in our 3 readings, and these are raving fans, first break all the rules, and primal leadership. By examining the Rockefeller Library web page at the Colonial Williamsburg website, you will see that this library excels at providing services to its patrons. Many of its resources are available online. Otherwise, information about the resources that the RL has are available on its web page. The staff at the RL have done everything possible to provide patrons with the resources that they seek. The RL catalog is also networked to the catalog at the College of William and Mary, a fact that increases its patronage. Now I'm going to address the 12 questions that are raised by our next reading, and that is first break all the rules. Question 1, do I know what is expected of me at work? Mayo stated a couple of times during the interview that his librarians already know how to do their jobs, and consequently they are easy to supervise. Question 2, do I have the materials and equipment to do my job right? In large part, the answer to this question is no, as severe budget restrictions barely allow these librarians to do their jobs. Question 3, at work, do I have the opportunity to do what I do best every day? To the extent made possible by a Spartan fiscal situation, the answer to this question is barely yes. Question 4, in the last 7 days, have I received recognition or praise for doing good work? At one point in the interview, Mayo stated that he doesn't hold very many meetings and he prefers to meet with his staff individually. He also stated that it is important to pat people on the back for doing good work. So from this, it is apparent that he recognizes and praises his staff for doing good work. Question 5, does my supervisor or someone else at work seem to care about me as a person? At another point in the interview, Mayo states that he talks to everyone on the library on a daily or almost daily basis. Question 6, is there someone at work who encourages my development? At another point in the interview, Mayo said that he encourages each of his librarians to do what they do best and to delve into things that interest them. So in the end, we can conclude that the answer to this question is yes. Question 7, at work, do my opinions seem to count? This question is much more difficult to answer, but based on Mayo's responses to other questions of a similar nature, we can assume that the answer to this question is yes. Question 8, does the mission and purpose of my company make me feel that my job is important? At one point in the interview, Mayo emphasized the importance of being flexible in performing job duties, as there are times when people who have to fill in for others who are out of the office. This fact presses home the point that each person on the staff matters and is important. Question 9, are my coworkers committed to doing quality work? The Colonial Williamsburg Foundation has a national reputation for excellence, and people who apply for positions there know that it does not pay well. That fact, combined with Mayo's statement that each person on the staff already knows how to do their jobs, leads us to believe that each staff member is committed to doing their best. Question 10. Do I have a best friend at work? This is not a question that we can answer. In the last 6 months, has someone at work talked to me about my progress? Based on other similar questions whose answers we can determine, it is almost a certainty that Mayo does in fact speak to his librarians about their progress. Question 12. In the last year, have I had the opportunity to learn and grow? Unfortunately, it is unlikely that the RL librarians have had much opportunity to grow based on a lack of funds. Our last reading is entitled Primal Leadership, and the thesis of this book is that successful leaders lead by emotion, or at least they're aware of the impact that emotions have on their followers. The authors of this book also point out that the emotions that leaders convey to their followers should be resonant rather than dissonant. In the interview, some of the statements that Mayo made indicate that he's aware of this, at least at some level of consciousness. He made statements such as, if you are discouraged, don't let your people know, and also show them that you care about them. So he does seem to be aware of the importance that positive emotions have on followers. And this is the conclusion of this presentation, and in conclusion I can point out that this interview and analysis show that even a library administrator who has had little formal training in leadership psychology and personnel management seems to have a good idea about many of the principles of sound leadership.